Good evening, positive people. Buenos noches. Bonjour. Bon dia. Buongiorno. Ni hao. Memenjes. Dobre utro. Namaste. Sawadi. Chawem. Manga nangu manga. Como ye? Sopa wanang sung. Assalamu alaikum. Privet. Guten Tag. Kalimara. And as they say in some neighborhoods, what's good? My name is Kevin Booker Jr.
And I'm Daisy Torres.
And welcome to the Cultural Flipside. Daisy, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling fantastic.
Oh.
Weather's great, right? It's just, I love it. I'm in the mood for spring and summer. Let's go.
That's right. I tell you, I love your coordination today. Looking good, you know.
Right.
We got that swag right now.
You know, purple. Purple's my favorite color.
Woo.
Love it. It looks good on you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm feeling great as well.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about today's show.
Me too.
Because it was transformational for me on so many levels last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just thinking about watching that video
Yeah.
on YouTube, you know, it was very impactful for me. Because I looked at my brother. I looked at like it could have been myself.
Absolutely.
Right then, at that moment, going through that.
Yeah.
Very, very impactful for me on so many levels. And it activated me and made me want to get involved. And I was like, I cannot sit back on the sidelines.
I can totally agree and relate to that. This past year, right, a lot has happened.
A lot.
And you know, that movement, that had, as a result of what happened to Mr. George Floyd, it has just impacted our community, our world. Our world will never be the same. And for me, it was really hard to watch as well. And it was just like, basic human rights were being taken away. And then what I was really upset, I was angry. I don't know about you, but I was angry just watching how, this was unfolding and the injustice. And so, when we decided to, this program was starting to be planned out, I was excited to hear from Selwyn Jones. He's going to be here. It's exciting, right? So I could hear, what has transpired over the last year.
Absolutely.
Because so much has changed. So very exciting.
When you talk about anger, when I think of that, every day of my life, just being a black man,
right.
Living on this planet, living in this country, and living in the state where I live. I just think about all my cousins throughout the nation. Of course, we have to stay positive.
Of course.
Because we know what we have to deal with on a daily basis when we walk out of our houses, and wondering if we will ever make it back.
Yeah, I often think about that too.
So the whole idea of anger, that just it made me say, you know what? I don't want this to continue happening.
Correct.
So how do I channel this energy? How can I work with my other individuals in my community who are leaders and activists?
Absolutely.
And how can we get activated? That's why it's such an honor to have someone like Selwyn Jones here today on the show.
This is just really important conversation that we're going to have today. And to just, hear about, what has transpired over the last year, right? And I would love to hear a little bit more about, what's happened in terms of police reform, right? And just to engage in this important conversation, right? Because when I think about what's happened, it's about healing, too, right? A lot of healing. There's trauma here, and we need to think about repairing the harm. And it starts with having honest conversations, right? And vowing to do better.
Right.
And so, I'm really looking forward to hearing, what he has to say. And, you hear all these things on the media, right? But to hear firsthand from a family member, to hear what the impact that experience had for him and what he did to channel and change that to turn it into something good, right? And that's
also
the
to
power
think
of
about
that.
the work he's been doing for so long.
Right.
When you think about even this movement, one of the reasons why we know what happened last year is because of social media.
Yes.
So 10 years ago,
correct.
When social media really became popular and people had that platform, it's not that these things were not occurring before. Because as I said before, when you think about black people leaving the South, that was domestic terrorism. And they came to the North and still faced some of the same atrocities and violence and murders that they faced in the South.
Correct.
So the reality is that social media has now put a spotlight on some of the things that have been going on for hundreds of years. So I'm really excited about having Mr. Selwyn Jones on here. I know today is his special day.
Yes.
So we're gonna definitely give him a shout out on the Cultural Flip Side, a nice little birthday wish.
A little birthday, feliz cumpleaños.
He's gonna be 55, oh my
you
God.
just threw him under the bus, just
I know,
saying.
I know. Ron, can you please bring on Mr. Selwyn Jones?
Yes. Yay, welcome, Mr. Jones.
Woo!
Booker?
Wait. How do we do it? It's his special B-Day.
Feliz cumpleaños.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Selwyn Jones. Happy birthday to you. How old are you now?
That would be something Kevin would do.
Just a big
Sorry
butterfly.
about that.
Oh, man. Selwyn, it's so good to see you, man. It
Did
really
you throw
is.
me under the bus?
I know.
I know it.
You know that's out of love, bro.
Look, I thought that black on black crime, man. That's 55, man.
You
I'm
looking
in my
good,
prime.
man.
Yeah, he does. He looks sharp.
I'm in my prime.
That's right.
I appreciate y'all young fellows, young ladies, give me an opportunity. That was a gracious entrance. But I am here because of one reason and one reason only. Because we got to stick together and make this change.
That's
Because
right.
Amen.
363 days ago, we saw something that we've never seen before. From start to finish, we seen how a man gets executed because of the color of his skin. Is what we saw. And I always like to start. I wake up every morning and I'm an old daddy, I'm on a motel, so I'm pretty much done. It's a wrap. It's a done deal. I get my 5-year-older up and get him dressed, and my 7-year-older, and I eat me a couple of croissantses, Booker. Croissantses.
I
And
love
you gotta
that.
keep round. I'll never be as pretty as you, baby. And I'm sitting there, and because I come from that old rural South, North Carolina, I hate to see brothers get used for punching bags, because of power and control, or because of the color of our skin, or our economic system, or where we live at. And every time I see it, man, I get fired up. I hate it. And I sat there, Book, a young lady, and before I realized who it was, I'm madder than heck, man. I'm mad. Somebody just slapped my mom. I'm so mad.
That's right.
And my sister calls me and says, "Did you see what?" And my brother, I sat back, and that was probably the longest time that I've ever spent in distress, because I sat there and that distress is still going. But for that continuation of that video, I knew that black guy was not gonna live in that movie. And the movie was called Just Life of a Black Man. And it was starring my nephew, George Floyd. If you know him, you called him Perry. And ever since that day, young lady, young gentlemen, I have been fighting like heck.
Wow.
We grew up in a place that nobody should ever come from. But unfortunately, if you were born from the Jim Crow South, that's basically how we started. We started as pretty much a slave. We started by living in somebody else's house, working on somebody else's farm, making somebody else rich, while we gave our body, our mind, and our time for somebody who didn't give a hoot about us because of the color of our skin. And man, let me tell you, bad day, which is going to end up being one of the biggest days in history for the human race.
Absolutely. I just want to thank you again, Mr.
Thank you.
Jones, for just your candidness and being completely honest, and for being here today on the Cultural Flip Side. We're very honored to have you here. And so, you know, meaning me and Mr. Booker, we've had the pleasure of having, you know, some conversation with you, you know, but for our viewers out there who don't know who Selwyn Jones is, can you tell us, before we dive a little bit more into this 1-year anniversary of the death of your nephew, Mr. George Floyd, tell us, who is Selwyn Jones?
Selwyn Jones is a wonderful singer. What I am is I'm just an old country boy. Grew up North Carolina. Like I said, grew up in a house without running water, indoor plumbing, and we grew up hard. You know, I unfortunately, back in the 60s and 70s, if your toe was hurting, they whipped your butt. If your eye was hurting, you got your butt whooped. So basically, what I'm telling you is, for anything wrong with you, you took a butt whooping. Well, I stuttered. And if you weren't right in all facets, you had to sort of kind of take a ride the short bus. And I rode the short bus. And I learned several things throughout that little 3 or 4 years. I stuttered, so I couldn't talk. So I got beat up by everybody because I was a black dude living in the Jim Crow South with freckles, and that won't happening back in those days. And you know, when I used to go in the bathroom, I used to get my butt kicked. You know, N-word. I thought that was my name. I was so ashamed of where I was from and where I lived that I used to have people drop me off at the end of the driveway, which is about 1.5 miles, and I'm afraid of the dark still. And one day, I figured when I was in the 5th grade, I could talk. I haven't stopped yet, y'all. I've been wearing that out. But things have changed in a way that you would think would be a great way. But as we go along, we'll peter into that. Selwyn Jones is a broken-hearted uncle, a sad brother, and a very, very, very sad black man. To say that we've seen things happen in the last year that set us back a great ways. But I got to look at it like this. I literally got to look at George Perry Floyd, which was a good guy, happy, lucky, happy, gregarious. You like his uncle, you know, want to laugh, want to talk junk, can't dance, but you know, we got to do a little shake every now and again. And we just loved life. And you know, when you grow up poor, we can always tell a joke. You can always laugh, because laughter's free, y'all.
That's
Laughter's
right.
free.
That's right.
And the day of May the 26th, think about this, y'all. $19.00 changed the entire way of the world.
That's right.
The 2 most tragic things that ever happened in history of the world. COVID. It killed 600,000 people. Almost 300,000 of those people were black. Why? Because of our healthcare history. Without COVID, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation, because COVID made everybody be ready in their house to open their eyes. 2 people, y'all. There's people that can't read, and there are people that don't want to read. And COVID made people read. There's people that sat in their chairs. Think about this, y'all. Imagine being in a place, and no matter how bad you want to leave, you have to die before you leave. Imagine well, you could see the look in his eyes and his face, how petrified he was. And just thinking, 5 minutes before then, he was in the store dancing, trying to kiss a girl. Did he realize, if he'd only realized what would have been happening about 8 or 10 minutes later, he'd have probably ran.
That's right.
But it was a day that Derek Chauvin had to show up. It was a day that Darnella Frazier had to take her cousin to the store, and it was a day that George Perry Floyd had to show up at that store. And what that did, is that gave us an opportunity to live. I don't mind, and I know people have said before, "Wow, that's deep." I am proud that my nephew was the guy that changed this, that gave us an opportunity to breathe. Because for 400 years, y'all, think about this book. We have been the punching bag of the
Absolutely.
entire civilized world. We have had to negotiate our life from day one. And you know, man, I am proud to say, with, with, with sadness in my heart and tears in my eyes, that my nephew was the guy that made this change possible. Think about this, y'all. If you were old enough to remember that space shuttle in 1986 that blew up, the Explorer,
Yes.
we won't forget that one.
No.
Right.
You won't forget. You won't forget the start of Desert Storm, either.
That's right.
You won't forget 911,
That's right.
September 11th, and I promise you, you'll never ever forget the day you heard about George Floyd. If you knew him, you called him Perry, because that was the day that the world stopped and said, "We're not going to take this anymore." And it wasn't black people, it wasn't white people, it wasn't Hispanic people, it wasn't Asian people. It was all people said, "We got to do this together to make change." Because if we wouldn't have had acted like fools, and I don't condone acting like fools, y'all, but 400 years of seeing that, us as black people, oh God, every time you see them like that, it's like, why? But we had the white people say, wow. And we needed everybody to come together and to say, we can't do this no more. And they did, my brother.
They
And
did.
I got a chance whenever I see a 75-year-old white lady that has a sign that says Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, that brings a tear to my eye. Because, brother, 75, 80-year-old Caucasian people, they're 3, 4 generations away from owning slaves. Where I'm from, a 75-year-old Caucasian man, he wouldn't shoot you. He wouldn't shoot you if you were wounded. He really wouldn't. So I want to think in my heart and my mind that change is going to come. It'll take us 3, 4 generations from here to see that happen. But you know what, y'all? I'm proud to say that old country boy that was born by a young lady named Lysenia Sissy Floyd was the guy that made that opportunity happen for everybody to be free. Because, brother, my neck's hurting, my back's hurting from having that knee on my neck and that knee on my back. And I think every black man in the world back is hurting in a way. If you got a heart, you saw that, and you seen a man beg, cry, scream, debate. He pushed so hard on his shoulder that he pretty much he cut his shoulder, cut the meat, his chin. All of that was cut up, and he was breathing off 2 to 3% of air, and he was fighting like heck, man.
Wow.
And dawg, let me tell you, this is what really shook me up and broke me up, y'all. My nephew died at 8:26 and 15 seconds on May the 20th, 2020. That's when he died. And ever since then, my friend, I've probably had an average of 3 hours sleep. I
Oh
have
my
not
God.
slept in the last year. because I don't want nobody's son, daughter, sister, brother, cousin, uncle to have to go through what the whole world had to go through. Because I don't even, I ain't even mad anymore at people, man. Because it isn't people, it's the system. It's how the system was created. This system was designed to capture slaves. It was called the slave patrol for those that don't know. And it's been the slave patrol for a black man for a long, long, long time. Because I promise you, there's not too many people had this conversation that are that of a different color. When you get stopped by the cop, when something certain things happen, you put your hands on the dash 10 and 2, you shut up, you cut the music down, and you say yes sir, no sir, like you are a boy. And you do nothing to make any quick moves or else you know that that might be the last day that you get a chance to breathe. Brother, 1964 Civil Rights Act said that racism was illegal. Guess what, y'all? Somebody ain't been obeying the rules. But all I know is this: with wonderful people like yourself that give me an opportunity to come see my ugly face and, you know, and hear my scraggly voice, to tell you a real story about a real boy uh, that lived in Houston, Texas, to come up smiling with dreams and thoughts of taking care of his mama. And then things happened where that things didn't go the way that they were supposed to go. And everybody make bad mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes in life. Nobody's perfect. And to live 46 years of fighting for every second, for every day to be better, and to have somebody decide to be judge, jury, and executioner to show their power and control at 8:26 and 15 seconds, y'all. If that don't rip your heart out of your chest to see a grown man beg and plead and just want to live, you don't have no heart. And as I say, I don't want to talk to the people that don't wanna listen. You lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Because everybody's not gonna be bought into this change. Everybody's not, you know. But what I know is this, kiddos. If we have an opportunity to have people listen to us, if we have opportunity to communicate, to conversate, to educate, to motivate, and you gotta make a little somebody uncomfortable sometimes to make things happen, we can help ourselves because nobody needs to be laying on a street in the middle of the day and having somebody kill you like you're not worth one lick, because that's exactly what he did to my nephew. He treated him like he was nothing. Yeah, have you ever pulled up a lynching photo? You ever seen that?
Yes.
Yeah. You seen
Yes.
when how many black people's feet you ever seen on the ground? Well, do you see the look in their eye when they're standing there beside their row or their big kill? That was like a big buck kill.
That's
That
right.
was like, yeah, got him. Power and control.
Yeah, absolutely.
And y'all, I I literally cry every day. I cry every day to see my nephew's face, to see him struggling, to see him fighting. And all because of $19 and 100 pennies. When the guy was going to pay for the potential or allegedly counterfeit dollar. It wasn't because of $19 and 100 pennies, y'all. It was because of the color of his skin. It was because the training that we have given our authority figures isn't exactly adequate, because they're supposed to de-escalate, not escalate. And if you honestly had one doubt in your mind that my nephew was going to get up and walk away from that, you were fooling yourself.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
Very deep.
Yeah, it's this is what I've been doing, y'all, for a year. It's going wow. Every time I wake up,
Yeah.
and I won't call him because he left a text on my phone last year on the 22nd of May,
Yeah.
and he said, "Happy birthday, Unc." And because of life, I didn't even look at that text until the 27th, and I still see that text. It says, "Happy birthday, Unc."
Wow.
Guess what, y'all? I don't get to see my big Perry no more. I don't. He don't. I don't get to see him at Thanksgiving and Christmas, his birthday.
Oh my
I
God.
don't have the opportunity because somebody decided that they would be judge, jury, and executioner because they had a bad day. We want everybody to go home. We do. We want. I want. I want. I want to go home. I know you want to go home. I know everybody wants to go home, and it just seems like that we would figure out a way so we could fix this system. Obviously, George Floyd Policing Act will help the cause, but it basically comes down to the heart of a man. Uh, why take a life when you can help a life? Because a lot of times, y'all, and you could look at that particular situation, and they could have talked Perry. All they had to do was talk to him. That's all they had to do. That's all they had to do. And I know you don't have time to talk to nobody when you're. All they had to do was talk to him and just calm him down and make him. Hey man, you know what? It's bad. You know, you're gonna have a bad day, brother. We're gonna have to take you in. You know, because you don't seem right. But dog, you gonna tell me that my nephew needs to be in a hole right now? You gonna tell me that Auburn Arbery need to be in a hole? You gonna tell me that Breonna Taylor need to be in a hole? You gonna tell me Eric Gardner need to be in a hole just because they were black, or just because they were selling cigarettes in the front of a store, just because they were running down the same road that they ran down for last 10, 12 years? Y'all. You know, we we live in a world, we live in a country, in a place that don't sort of kind of show us a lot of love all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I love I love where I'm at. I love my country. Now, if y'all want to hear something really crazy, you think the story I'm talking about crazy now? Well, I'm gonna push it into another gear. I live in a place that I've been coming to for 21, 22 years. My wife grew up here. Wonderful little country town. And this is what you know when you're black. You know that you got to negotiate things. I sold vacuum cleaners for a living, and I had to put Caucasian people at the table so they would register so I could get in their house, because if I was there, nobody would register because of the color of my skin. And I realized that negotiation. Uh, After my nephew gets murdered, now there's people that I go to softball games with and little league games with, and I go to school programs with. Imagine this. Imagine living in a place that you have decided that this would be the place that you die at. You take all of your investments and you cash them in, and you are going to die at that place because that's where you decide to lay your head. And as you put your nephew in the grave that got tortured like an animal, 8 billion people got a chance to see him die because of the color of his skin, because of power and control. And you get in the car, and the first thing you see is that.
If you are offended by a piece of cloth but think dealing drugs to kids is all right. You might be this moron.
Now that saddens me more than seeing my nephew uh, get murdered. Because you know what? We know about we know we've known about police brutality. We've known about uh, having a different color skin. But for people that you have been to church with, that you've sat with, that you played with, that you honestly thought were okay, and you watch a video from a council meeting of people that you just left from, and the first thing is stated is, why would we? Now keep in mind we had a Confederate flag on our police uniform patch. Crazy. And my next door neighbor stands up in the council meeting and says, why would we change anything because of a dead nigga's uncle living in our town?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sioux
Now
Falls,
let me tell you
right?
something, brother. No,
Gettysburg.
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 Yeah.
Gettysburg, South Dakota.
Wow.
And brother, let me tell you, I sit in my parking lot and I see people that come by that have called me the N word repeatedly. And the only thing I've done is had somebody murder my nephew. And this is what I get. Now, you tell me, man, you come up battling for every second of your life. You come up wishing and hoping one day that things would change. And you finally put yourself in a position where you say, okay, I'm okay. And your next door neighbor that you've sat and talked to for you've known for the last 18 years,
Wow.
you see him on the camera saying, that nigga's not from this community. He was put in town by the Democrats.
Oh my gosh.
My goodness.
And, you know, I was, the other night, I think I got off the phone with y'all. I'm sitting in my parking lot where I sit and I look out across the street. I look like a kid lost because I ain't got no friends. The only friends I got is a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. Really. And I'm sitting out looking across the parking lot and I'm seeing all these people. You stop by, you say, hey, Selwyn, how you doing? But you can look online and you can see where they call me a nigga or either thumbs up or like the phrase. And, you know, sometimes I do cry. I think, wow, what did I do to deserve this? Nothing. I'm black. I had a little 15-year-old kid stop the other night, and his daddy, I've probably known longer than anybody I have down here, and he stops and he says, hey, Miles, how are you? I like, man, I am just doing fine. I like, what do I need? I said, what do you need, buddy? He's like, nothing. I just want to stop by, man, because I see you sitting out here in that same chair looking. And every time I come by, you're looking sad. I just want to stop by and say, hey, Miles, because I know that there's nothing wrong with you. And I'm sorry these people in our town are treating you like they're treating you, man. But I still like you, man. And you know what? You have no idea how good that made me feel for a 15-year-old kid to stop by and say, Miles, I remember when you used to have all the little kids that are in the 10th grade down there playing football, getting us ready for football season. And our daddies were standing on the side and saying, let Miles show you this. And now those same daddies are calling me a nigga because somebody killed my nephew. So, man, let me tell you something, partner. The last 364 days have been, by far, some of the most difficult days of my life because it's one thing to wake up and to know you've made mistakes. It's one thing to wake up and know that you ain't perfect. And everybody, you can lie to yourself. You can lie to everybody. You can't lie to yourself. But it's one thing to wake up one day and laugh and smile and joke. And then 7 days after you're laughing and smiling and joking, you can't even go to the local store because somebody murdered my nephew. I had to go drive 60 miles to get gas because the owner of the store that I've known since he was 18 years old stated that niggas are slick. They know how to do things without getting caught. We know he's selling drugs to kids. And I don't get on the internet much because it don't do me no good. And I went online and I asked somebody, I was like, wow, if I'm doing so much, why aren't I in trouble? And this one lady's like, wow, it would be hard for one of three black men that live in a town to do anything bad without being in trouble or in a bad place. So man, what I tell you is I thought I was free. I thought I was free. I thought I was free, y'all. I worked for 40 years like a dog, and I thought I was free. I had that piece of Americana. I could sit in the parking lot and look out and see my babies grow and, live. And bruh, what I realized is no matter what you got or how old you are, and a lot of people's eyes, you're still a boy.
Wow. Selwyn.
And
Selwyn, I wanna go back to what you said earlier about those 364 days have been difficult. And you said earlier, you only get 3 hours of sleep. Some nights it's just 3 hours. So when I think about your nephew Perry, can the world? You said earlier the world was never the same after the murder of your nephew Perry, that we know as George Floyd. Can you tell us a little bit about Mr. Floyd, your nephew Perry, and what was he like as a child? And can you share one of your greatest memories with him? Because people only see, that incident, that murder that took place. But there's a lot to your nephew Perry.
He was an extraordinary athlete. He wasn't as good as his uncle. I'll just go and get that out of the way right now. He was cool, man. The same way that I introduced myself to you, Book.
Yeah.
Laughing like a fool. That's him. All you have to do is go back and look at that video when he was in the store before the police came in and sort of kind of changed the whole narrative of everything. That's what he is. Laughing, joking, believed in the Lord. Oh my Lordy, I got tired of, man, I don't want you to put stuff on me that I don't want. I want to ease into it, And every time you get him, man, every time you get around him, he won't talk about the Lord. He wanted to talk about how one day he's going to have a church. And this is probably the stupidest thing I've ever heard any human being say. Because he had been incarcerated, he wanted to open a restaurant and serve only oodles and noodles and have convicts serving it.
Oh my goodness.
I happen to know that most men don't like washing their hands, so that would have been really a bad situation. Just stupid stuff like this. And he told me that, man. And he never cracked a smile. And what I'm really thinking to myself, yeah, come on, man. That's the dumbest thing you ever heard of, man. But just stuff like that. And obviously, if you listen to music, Scarface, and Zero, he's that big ugly dude up there can't dance, rocking, lean with it, That's my boy.
Oh, I love it.
The funniest thing that I ever remember doing is, okay, y'all, nobody's listening, right? We're by ourselves.
No, nobody listening.
Okay.
Only the world is
okay.
just the world listening right now.
Okay. I'm that uncle. Everybody got a crazy uncle. Everybody got an uncle that come over to the house and slap and rattle up everybody. Guess what, kids? I say the blind man, that's me. And well, let's say this much, man. All of my nieces and nephews are closer to my age than my sisters and brothers. So sometimes they might would get buried up to their neck and say they got to pee, and somebody might not let them out of the hole and dig the dirt away from around them and leave them out there, maybe pee on themselves and laugh for about an hour, and they begging and crying and screaming, calling for mama.
Yeah.
And the uncle might look at them funny and say, "Okay, maybe I need to let you go now." But I'm not saying that I was that uncle, okay? Just not saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm not saying that we all tried hot sauce and I was the only one that didn't try it, and everybody else was running around crazy. I'm not that uncle. Believe me, I'm not that uncle. Uh, all I know is this, y'all, is the days that we had playing in the field with 15, 16 of us and no ball. We had tobacco twine that we rounded up for a ball and get a stick. Those were some good old days, man,
Mm-hmm.
because you never knew what you did miss what you never had, you know?
Right.
And but you had love.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you that we had this old black gal named Lauren Jones, and she made sure that you respected each other and you loved each other and you treated each other like you wanted to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, now that crazy uncle that they had, something was wrong with him, man,
Oh.
because they play hide and go seek, and he would make everybody chase him, and he would jump up from under the house and he'd smack them. I don't know who that uncle was, not calling no names.
Oh.
And they would all go and tell my sisters, "Mama, Selwyn hit me in my eye. Selwyn threw some water on me. Selwyn did this on me."
Mm.
And they all used to go tell my mama. My sister, "Mama, would you tell that boy to stop playing with them? Stop hurting them babies?" And I remember my mama saying the same thing. Keep in mind, these babies are 6, 7, 8 years younger than I am. I told you that boy was crazy. Tell them younger to leave that boy alone.
Leave that boy.
Uh,
Yeah, that sounds.
you know, uh, things like that you'll never forget.
That's
You'll
right.
Yeah,
never forget
absolutely.
having eating contests. You know,
Mm.
you never forget when you were older and bigger and stronger. You used to wrestle with him, bro.
Mm.
I figured that dude got like 18, 19, 20 years old.
Wow.
"Hey, Unc, let's play." "No, man, leave me alone." Last time I saw him was about 2 weeks before he died, and I'm sitting there standing with him at the Salvation Army, and he gonna pick me up, and there's like all these people walking around, man, and he gonna pick. You don't pick a man up looking face to face.
I know.
Hook, that ain't right, man. I'm a boy, Damien. I'm a boy. And he picked me up and he hugged me. "Come here, Unc. I love you, man." And stuff like that, you can never ever
Oh,
forget,
That's right.
because
absolutely.
that was my boy.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That was my boy.
Mm.
Every time we seen each other, it was never Selwyn. It was never anything besides Unc. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever we left each other, man,
Mm-hmm.
when you go through the kind of life that we go through, I have said this for a long time, done this for a long time, bro. When you leave, I never know when I'm gonna see you again.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
it might not be tomorrow or the next day, but I'm gonna see you again. So
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, I love you because
That's right.
you never know.
You
Just
never know.
And
That is so very
and
true.
when I saw him, when I last time I seen him, he tried to shake me up and stuff. And I love you, boy. I'll talk to you later, Unc. And I don't know, man. All I know is this: the world is a better place because of my nephew, George Perry Floyd. He wasn't an inventor. He never made it to the hard court. He never made it to that green pasture. But what he did is he gave us an opportunity
That's right.
Yes.
that we could be free.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
we, as black men, as people of color,
Mm-hmm.
God, we need to be free.
That's
We
right.
need to be given the same opportunity that everybody else. We're not asking for nothing special, book. We ain't. We ain't
No.
asking to, hey, put me in the front of the class.
Yep.
All we're asking is, don't put me in the back of the class.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not gonna shoot them, why don't shoot me?
Yeah.
Give me the same opportunity as everybody else has,
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
I think we'll make it
Absolutely.
because all you know. James Baldwin said, "Hope's invented every day."
Mm.
And whenever you wake up, guess what? I tell people all the time, "Hey, man, all you need is another day. All
Yeah.
I need is another chance, another day." And
Wow.
like I said, man, you give me a shrimp and I can make gumbo for 30 of us.
Your energy, Selwyn, is amazing. I'm just truly inspired by listening to you. When you were speaking about your family, it made me think back to your nephew's daughter, right? So I would have met your great
Jay,
niece, right? And I read in an article that during the trial, right, of Derek Chauvin, she was quoted as talking about her father being one of the kindest people, right? One of the kindest
there,
people. How is she doing? Can you tell us a little
she,
bit about how the past year has been for her?
it's been different. It's been difficult, but you know what? She's a resilient little girl. She's got a lot of people around her that love her. She's, let's be real, if Shaquille O'Neal and Lil Wayne and Drake and T.I. came to my birthday party, I'd be okay too. Just
I
saying.
know.
Just saying. Just saying. That's who was at a birthday
Wow.
party. Uncle Selwyn didn't even get invited.
Wow.
But we need to talk to her mama about that one. But man, she is going to be okay. She's gonna be okay. And I think when they're that age, they're 6 or 7, that they remember, but things they forget. She'll always remember, but things will get a little bit easier. And honestly, I think it's harder on Uncle Selwyn than it is on anybody in the family because everybody can call me. Anybody can call me. And if you want to Facebook creep on me, you'll catch me. Because obviously I don't post online anymore because of where I'm at in the world. But I'm online at 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, just looking, because man, I can't turn my brain off because every time I just sit, I see my boy. I see my boy uh, begging for his life and squirming and crying and calling for my sister. And when you love somebody uh, unconditionally, and me and him have had a lot of battles, a lot of talks about life choices and decisions. And when you love somebody that much, it's not even fair that 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 you gotta sit back and I just literally sit back in my chair and just watched it. I didn't, I'm sure most people jumped up and I just literally sat back in my chair and I wanted to see exactly what everybody else seen. I wanted to sit back and see what everybody else saw. And I sat back in my chair and I never once shedded a tear. And I just watched my nephew die. Now I've shed it a lot since then, my brother, but that, there's things in life, you remember phases in life. You remember your first girlfriend. You remember your first kiss. Lord have mercy. You remember when you got your driver's license.
Yeah.
And I won't ever forget the day that I woke up and I seen George Perry Floyd change the world. I got to look at it that way. I do. I have to look at it that the Lord took him to make this world a better place. Because if I thought the other way, if I thought about all these people that are calling me bad names, a little town I live in, if I thought about the KKK, if I thought about all these other bad things that are going on, it would be, you're tired. You're tired of thinking about, man, I pulled in a daggone Menards the other day, and we just got a new lat, And I pull in the parking lot. Young lady driving a 79 Pinto. But it ain't got them electric door locks on it. You know, you got to reach over the seat and lock the door. And she looked up there at me, and it looked like she seen a demon. She leaned over, she locked the door, and she sat there, and she clipped her purse in the car. And my wife said, "I'll leave her alone." I like, heck no, I ain't gonna pass this one up. And I sat there till she got out of the car, but she about 75, 80 years old. And I walked by, I was like, "Ma'am, I'm sorry. I was making sure I parked that new Cadillac away from your car so you wouldn't get no paint on it or anything,
Jeez.
ma'am." And she looked at me like, "That's what you should have done, nigga."
Oh my gosh.
So, bro, let me tell you, there's something wrong with how this thing has been created. Because when it comes to the point where the poorest Caucasian person in the world thinks he's better than any person of color, because he was taught that. Racism ain't a gene. A lot of people think it is, but it's not. It is a taught emotion that somebody sits and they tell you and they drive it into your brain. You're better than that person because of the color of his skin. How sad is that? That we live in a world that people sit and they program people for hate. Black people don't program their kids for hate. We don't. But we program our kids for life. And the life that we've been programming them ain't the way it should be. So all I'm telling you, y'all, is there's going to be a traveling road show. And that traveling road show is called the Selwyn Jones Show.
And you know what? That leads me to this traveling road show. And when I think about this traveling road show, you looking really good today, Mr. Selwyn Jones. I see the suit, I see the tie and everything. So, that leads me to my question here, because I was just thinking about that GQ magazine right now. Because you were recently featured in GQ magazine, Man of the Year edition. We looking at it right now.
Look at that.
Which highlighted fathers or father figures of black men who were victims of police brutality. Can you please share the important work you have been involved in, and what message do you have for the world, Mr. Selwyn Jones? GQ magazine of the year, man of the year, man of the year.
I have always known I was just as beautiful as Booker.
Oh my gosh! At least you give me some
Booker
props,
pretty,
here, man.
Booker is pretty. Look at it. Look, I gotta get me a piece of paper, get me a little napkin, handkerchief.
I love it.
There you go. But what I'm telling you with this, kids, is I lost one of my favorite people. And ever since May the 27th, I've been busting my butt to make sure that people get to see this face. It ain't as pretty as Booker's, but guess what? I had one day when I felt like a dime piece.
Yeah.
And that'd be that day.
Look at that.
That's awesome, man.
Great picture.
Visible men. That's powerful.
That is one day I felt like a dime. I felt like a dime. And when I looked out, there were like 7, 8 black SUVs. And Booker, I ain't no criminal, but I looked out and said, "Oh, snap, I gotta run, son." They were coming to take my picture, my brother. And the reason why my picture was taken because Alex Hort and a lot of people around seen what Uncle Selwyn's been doing because of the death of his nephew. I ain't gonna stop. I will not stop. Do what you gotta do, my friend, till you can do what you wanna do. I don't think me and you will ever be able to do what we want to do as far as systemic racism and racism. But guess what, Book? I'm so gonna give it a heck of a run, my brother.
That's right. Absolutely. That's right, man.
So gonna give it a heck of a run because that made me feel good that GQ magazine saw the efforts that I've been giving because the effort that I've been putting out because of the death of my nephew. Man, I can't stop, Book. If I stop now, you might as well go on and send me to pastor, brother, because all I do already is think what am I going to do? How am I going to make a difference? And keep in mind, my brother, you know the financier of this machine? It's Selwyn Jones. It's Selwyn Jones. I don't care a quarter, a dime, a penny. It don't matter to me.
That's
I don't
right.
care because all I know is I got to keep this ball going. Young lady sent me, young lady in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She sent me a Christmas letter, and in that Christmas letter, Booker, it had $1 in it. $1. And you know, that made me cry. Let me tell you something, buddy. You go through the situation I've been going through, and it seemed like everything's emotional. And I read that letter, and she's like, Mr. Jones, this is my contribution. This is my contribution to your journey. And man, shook me up, book, shook me up. So I did her a favor because you can see her handwriting. You can just tell how people are handwriting. And I took that dollar out and I put a 20 in, and I sent it back to her. And she sent me the return letter back, and she's like, Mr. Jones, you just something else. I've had that same young lady write a letter to the White House to see if she can somehow or another get enough sparks so I could get the congressional honor of peace. Medal for peace. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, brother. I don't care if anybody ever calls me by my name again. These people in town, people ask me all the time, how can you live there? I ain't going nowhere, book.
That's right.
One thing about it is, brother, I had an old dude come in the other day, and his brother passed away, and he was talking about how his brother was a bad businessman. And Bookie said, man, my brother, he was a horrible businessman. He pissed away everything he had. And he's like, don't you tell nobody. And he looked at me, he's like, oh, you can't tell nobody nowhere. Nobody's your friend. And he had... It was funny as heck because he said, don't tell nobody I said this. And he looked at me like, oh, you can't tell nobody. You ain't got no friends. You got no friends. I had a young man come through town, Booker, and he called me and said, man, I'm 12 miles outside of Gettysburg. I'm going to stop by there and see you. And, look, when he pulled up to my motel, I'm standing beside the road going, waving him down, hey, hey. And he's like, man, you act like you ain't got no friends. I don't. And that's okay. That is okay. And, Book, this is one thing that I know. Think about this, my brother. I can't go walking at night. Things go bumping in the night. But think about this, B. Everybody that's been in my position in the last 60 years, if they're making an impact, the black guy dies in the movie. And I don't even worry about that, Book. I don't even worry about that. All I worry about is people treating people differently. Because we've had our boot up our butt, we've had a knee on our neck, and we have been 60 years ago, Book, we had to negotiate whether we could go eat in the restaurant. We had to go, what? I can't use the same bathroom as you because if I set my black butt on it, it's gonna make your butt contagious. You're gonna give your butt something. And you know, it's okay. It is okay because I know that I am doing something that I'm supposed to be doing. Like I said, this is all set up, man. Perry had to go to heaven. Perry had to go somewhere. Charvin had to be there. Darnella Frazier had to be there. And it was that Uncle Jones, because I know he ain't going to stop talking. I know he's going to do exactly what he can do to make a difference in this world. And, Book, I ain't as pretty as you, but every dog got that date, boy. Woo!
We're not as pretty.
Every dog got that date.
I can't. That is too funny.
You are beautiful, man.
Yes,
You're a handsome man.
You are sharp looking. You know, Selwyn, you were just mentioning, you know, we were just talking about GQ magazine. Again, congratulations for being featured as their, you know, Man of the Year edition. You know, there's a lot that's up ahead, and you mentioned, you're on to big things, right? In the name of what happened. And so talk to us, tell us what's next for you. What are you looking and inspiring to do? And maybe if you could, leave our viewers with some inspiring words, some, encouragement. We know that many of people around the world are, dealing with hurt and trauma, and your words are very impactful, and people are listening. So, I leave you with those two things. What do you want to leave with the world, and what are you up to next?
Harriet Tubman Award, and I'm going to Arkansas to hang around with my friend Deshaun Scarborough at Martin Luther King Commission, and the governor wants to hang around with the old boy. So I think I'll go hang around with the governor. And just be real to yourself. Be true to yourself. Don't eat the yellow snow either. Just make sure you know that. Yellow snow bad. Respect yourself. Respect others. And just know, y'all, we come here with a day of we got to come here to leave. We make sure that every day of your life, you're spreading some kind of joy, because we only come here for just a little bit of time. Let's make it count. Let's make it count, because, hey man, it's bad enough that we've got to go through some of the things that we have to go through in life. We can make them better. We can make them better. Everything don't have to be about you. It ain't about being selfish. It's about being selfless. It never hurts to just to give somebody good words of inspiration, because a lot of times all people want to do is have somebody to talk to and be kind to them. Right. They do, because everybody ain't crazy like me, because I am cuckoo for cuckoo puffs.
No.
Book, if I couldn't laugh, or if I couldn't make myself feel good sometimes, buddy, all I would do is cry. All I would do is cry. Think about it. I live in a town that nobody likes me, and I've seen one of my favorite people die in the middle of the street. Right. The AB and other people sing. So guess what, Book?
What's that, man?
Thank you, my brother.
No, thank
Sister,
you, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate you so much, man.
And, whew, as I would say, as a nature boy Ric Flair would say,
woo!
I'm out.
Hey, Selwyn.
Thank you so
Mr.
much.
Selwyn Jones, thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you. God bless you, kids.
Be blessed.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Wow.
My goodness.
Mr. Selwyn Jones.
I don't know about you viewers out there, but that was powerful. That was, to me, very inspirational, deep. He's amazing.
Amazing. An incredible individual. Doing some phenomenal work.
What was resonating with me is, he took this tragedy, such a deep personal tragedy, and he's turning that into advocacy and doing better, right? And he's not coming here bitter, right? He's real, right? And I really appreciate just how he was honest, reflective. I learned a lot in that little time with him.
I like what he said too. He said, spread a little bit of joy and make it count.
That's right.
And he said, make sure you give people words of inspiration.
Be kind.
Be kind. And I just always think about what my mother used to tell me when I was little. She used to always say to me, Kevin, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Absolutely.
No matter what. And it's all about those moments. Making sure that, you continue just looking and reflecting on yourself.
There you go. Yep.
And making sure the energy that you give out is a reflection of who you really are, and be your genuine, authentic self, so you can continue impacting others around you.
Seems so simple. These
It
words, like
does,
be kind, treat others, right? It seems simple, but yet so many people are not experiencing that, right? It's really powerful to really think about the impact that you have on other people.
Right.
And just as simple, right? Checking in, right? The words that we're using. Just really something to, as I'm thinking through, just, you know, what little small seeds one can plant, right? We always talk about how we can make difference and change, right? Little things absolutely matter. I am really like...
But we have to be conscious and we have to really reflect and be willing to change.
That's right.
And be honest with ourselves that we have our own imperfections and be able to really give back and help others and genuinely help other people and genuinely be able to just say hello to someone.
Absolutely.
Do you need help?
Yes.
You know, as he said, the incident of his uncle Selwyn Jones talked about his nephew Perry, you know, and how it has impacted all of us through the world. Because when I reflect and look back a year ago, I remember watching people throughout the entire world protest.
Absolutely.
His nephew, Perry, as we know as George Floyd.
Right.
I would like to pray
Absolutely.
for the family. I'd like to pray for us as well, and
Yes.
as a community.
As a nation.
And the world.
Healing, right?
That's
a lot
right.
of people need the healing.
They do.
Let's do it.
God, thank you so much for bringing us together. God, please cover George Floyd's family. Please cover their extended family. God, help us to continue staying united as a community throughout the world so we can continue fighting the social injustices that plague our communities, our nations. God, help us to stay strong, have the courage, just like Mr. Selwyn Jones, the courage to continue fighting that fight, Lord. Even when we are tired, even when we just feel like giving up, Lord. God, keep us empower us to continue moving on, Lord. And God, thank you for this day. Thank you for waking us up this morning and giving us fresh air, the ability to breathe, and the ability to continue on. And God, help us to continue living by faith and not by sight. We love you and appreciate you, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Gracias a todos por estar aquí con nosotros hoy. Thank you all for being with us here today on the Cultural Flipside for this very special episode today.
And remember, everyone, you can pray anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. And if you don't feel like praying, you can meditate, take a walk, whatever it takes for you to be a better you so you can continue affecting your communities and throughout the state, wherever you are, in a positive way. So thank you so much for joining the Cultural Flipside. We appreciate you. We thank you so much for tuning in for this
Thank you
special
so much.
show today.
Adios.
Peace.